Welcome to the Boat Buyer's Secret Weapon series. I'm your host, Captain Matt, and today we've got another State of the Boating Market Winter 22. It is February 7th, so I'm still calling it winter. I wanted to let some numbers come out to try to get as good of a information on the 2021 year as I could. So what are we going to do? We're going to look at some facts and figures, review current market conditions, what to expect at boat shows. I'll make a few predictions and answer the question, should you buy a boat now? Let's go to the Baird report that presented by Marine Retailers of America, Marine Retailers Association of the Americas, and sounding straight only an industry journal. So here is the sentiment of dealers. They interview dealers all over the country in North America. And this is the sentiment. That 50% is kind of neutral, and you can see it's going up. In the last couple of months, it dipped below neutral, and there were, hey, supply chain issues, prices are going up, inflation's going up. In October, you kind of see it continue to go up as some of those issues were getting a little bit more under control. Now, the trends in the industry, you would expect the same thing. The trends continue to go up, positive sales, positive numbers on both new and used. And then just for a reference point, your seasonality, you can see January, February, October, November, December are by far the slow months. You can even throw September in there, and it would make sense. March, boat shows are kicking in, February, March. April, May, June, the weather's warming up. July, you want to get on the water for the 4th of July. You want to get on the water for Labor Day. After Labor Day in North America, it drops off. So that's what you're seeing as far as the trends go. And here's what's interesting is the seasonality that we typically see in the industry out the window. Doesn't mean anything right now. Right now, it's all about when can I get a boat? And that's shown right here in the inventory numbers. Again, reported by dealership owners. This is where our inventory is. Is it too high or is it too low? And 91% say inventory levels are too low. 5% of dealers said our inventories are too high. I'm going to guess that they're terrible dealers, very specialized dealers, or are doing some things that I would not recommend them to do. The used boat inventory, again, just at the dealership level, 85% of dealers saying we're too low, 6% saying we're too high. So inventory still incredibly low. You can see since May 2020, that sentiment has been very, very low. It dropped even more in about January of 21, and it's continued to stay low. It's picking up a little bit, but it was 100% there for a couple of months. Used boats, same thing. It's picked up a little bit, but it's still 85%, which means that, hey, things are really, really tight out there. If you're shopping, you know that. What's working? Well, these are just real comments from dealers. Sales are still good, but have slowed down from a year ago. Price increases definitely slowed sales some. Finding employees, brands have a renewed focus on customer experience, making sure that the customers are communicated with. They're getting good quality boats. They're better QC. They're better follow up on the warranty. Pre-selling, demand is still greater than supply. So you can stop the video and read all of these. They're very interesting. But I think it's interesting that the pre-selling, so we are not selling inventory boats because we don't have any. So we're having to sell a boat into the future. You're going to have to order it, and it's going to be 3, 4, 5, 6 months before you get it, depending on the brand. Now, I'll talk about that in a little bit. What's not working? Again, low response to open positions and lack of engines. So we can't get employees to work in the dealership, and we don't have engines to sell. We've got boats sometimes, but we don't have the engines. Lack of inventory, confusion everywhere, always blamed on the supply chain. This dealer's not buying it. Continue to have trouble with stock and special orders, not being 100% complete on arrival, missing parts, accessories, delayed delivery. Extra time in their shop to install those missing items, trailer shortages, part shortages, Yamaha rigging parts continue to be a huge problem. Cost of products getting extreme, 10% price increases. Stingray brands are lacking in quality control. And this just happened to be a Stingray dealer, but I'm hearing this from different brands as well. Price increases keep coming. This is getting scary. Again, pause the video and you can read those. Boat shows. Indoor boat shows are completely unnecessary with the changed retail environment. The National Marine Manufacturers Association needs to find a new way of working with dealers if they ever want shows to return. Lack of inventory. ROI for regional shows is not there. Will not be attending any winter boat shows. Boat shows have lost their value as a marketing vehicle. The show results do not outweigh the cost. COVID factor, no point in attending, and the risk reward is not worth it. Last year, several promoters of boat shows got their deposits, got the full payment from the dealers, canceled the show at the last minute, and didn't do any refunds. Dealers said, forget that. I'm not taking the chance that COVID may resurge in my area and they have to cancel or decide to cancel the show and we lose out on $10, $20, $30, $40, $80,000 in booth fees. Uncertainty of sufficient inventory and ROI is not there. So I don't have the boats to show, and even if I go, it's going to be more expensive. I could spend that money other places better, and we'll talk about that in boat shows as well. Additional comments. These are just 2 comments I felt were worth sharing. Feel the sales would continue to the dealers that have inventory, but going to be slower selling second quarter than it was a year ago. Price increases will be felt through the industry. Most of the buyers we've seen in third and fourth quarter 2021 are second and third boat owners, so they're experienced. They purchased early due to the shortages to make sure that they're on the water this upcoming season. Depending on pricing, 2022 could end up down from 2021 because I see sales slowing, although gross sales are showing flat. So units down, gross total dollar amount up. Cause supply issues and price increases is the cause of it. I feel the slowdown's already started, and 2023 is not going to be a good year for our industry. Very interesting. This is a Canadian dealer. The federal Liberal government intent on punishing the wealthy. They've put their 10% luxury tax in place, boats over $250,000. Omicron have taken hold in North America. We expect to go from having our best year in 2021 to one of our worst years in recent memory, 2022. Brutal. So that's interesting. In Canada, a little different situation with their high-end dealers selling over $250,000 boats having to deal with that. So what are we seeing on the numbers? Again, these are all the numbers aren't in. So these are estimations. I've kind of conglomerated them from different spaces to get as accurate as I can. So in 2021, power boats exceeding 300,000. Okay. So one said nearing 320,000. So I'm guessing it's about 317 or so. You can see the numbers from the states: Florida, Texas, Michigan, North Carolina, Minnesota, Wisconsin, New York, California, Georgia, South Carolina. You can see their numbers all up from 2019, just to give you an idea of where most boats are sold. And then 1.1 million pre-owned boats were sold in 2021. That number last year was about 1 million. When you're comparing the same ones. Now, a note about that 320,000, that number includes personal watercraft, which is probably about 85,000 or so, okay? So I show you that because this number, this chart from the National Marine Manufacturers Association and Baird Research shows outboards, inboard, stern drive, and jet boats, not personal watercraft, are not included. So the numbers are a little bit different. The 2021 numbers are not solid. They're pretty darn close, probably, but they're not definitive yet. It was the November numbers with estimated December numbers. So we talked about in the last market update that only 20,000 more extra boats hit the market from 2019 to 2020. If you look at 2018 numbers, it actually is less than 20,000 extra boats on the market. And that was from the high in the last 10 years. And if you look past 2010, if you look, there were several years where we did 300,000, 350,000 sales in 2000. So to say that there's going to be a flood of boats hitting the market because so many people are buying during COVID times, yes, sales are up, but we're nowhere near where we had been in the past, okay? So this flood of boats, I don't see it happening the way that you hear people talking on social media. And if you look, 2021 was actually down slightly. I'm going to say that's another 15,000 over 2019 as a ballpark estimate. So, but they were down compared to 2020. Why? Couldn't get the boats. The boats were sold, but they didn't get delivered. And these numbers are registered boats at the state level. They're sold, but they're not on the water. They're not hitting the market yet, which, again, we'll talk about that in a little bit. So what did we see? Well, in the past, we saw 2018, 2019, the industry was getting nervous. In 2019, the sentiment was, we've got a little bit more inventory than we're comfortable with, and if we don't have a good year in 2020, we could be looking at another downturn in the marine industry, okay? Too much market or too much inventory on the market, prices are going to get pushed down, and we're going to overproduce again. Well, pandemic hit, and I got this wrong in the last video. I had my dates mixed up, but pandemic hit March 2020. You can see dropped like a rock, picked back up in about April, May, and then the monthly sales just through the roof until about April. Boom. April was 80% increase, dropped way down in that's probably May or so, and then it went down in 2021. That's why we saw the numbers overall for 2021 are down slightly from 2020, because we just couldn't get the boats, the supply chain, labor issues, all those things we've talked about. In October, started to go up. November, it started to pick up even more. December, I believe those numbers are going to show, they're not out yet, that it picked up even more. And that's why I'm saying about 5,000 boats less than last year. But that's all happened because of COVID, the supply chain, the labor issue, okay? You can see that same exact thing in all the markets. Aluminum, fiberglass, fiberglass over 30 feet, stern drives, fiberglass over under 30 feet. You can see that same thing happening. Down in 2019, we've got that little issue, a little pickup here. COVID hits, boom. Oh, we got a lot of free time. We got extra money, sales, supply chain issues. That same trend happens in virtually all of the segments: ski boats, jet boats, personal watercraft, sailboats as well, although theirs is a little bit different because that market's really, really small, okay? Now, when you look at the actual numbers, this just came out a couple days ago. This is the one I was waiting for. Year-over-year growth was 7% less. So 185,000. This includes personal watercraft numbers to get us to 279,000 in 2021, almost 300,000 in 2020. Again, you take out the 75,000 for the personal watercraft to get to those numbers. Okay. Based on November being up about 2.5% in some of the segments, pontoon, cruisers, bow riders up a little bit more than that. My projection is that the November numbers are going to be up even more, cutting into that that drop from 2021 or from 2020 to 2021. But again, it's not that huge flood of boats in the market that it feels like. It feels like they built another 100,000 boats that are out there because inventory is so low. The reality is they just couldn't build them fast enough, okay? So what did that do? Well, on average, this was asked to the dealer, so their cost of inventory, how much has the price you pay manufacturers increased versus this time last year. 6 to 9% increase, 10 to 14% increase, 15 to 20% increase. Some were even over 20%. So depends on the segmentation, depends on your relationship with your manufacturer, the units that you buy, how you buy them, cash, credit. Do you have your own floor plan? Do you use their financing sources? All of that has an impact on it. But the bottom line is I see over and over on my Facebook Lives that we do every Sunday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern time, people are asking, hey, I was shopped the boat on, last spring and they gave me this price and now the price is 8, 9, 10% higher. Is that legit? Well, it absolutely is because the manufacturer's costs have gone up. They've passed it on to the dealers. The dealers are passing it on to you. So we're seeing that over and over and over. I've got a letter from a manufacturer saying their price increase was like 8.5%. So it's consistent, and I expect to see similar price increases happen. Maybe depending on what supply chain does, maybe this spring, and then as we hit July and August of 2022. That's when the normal year changes over. So we'll go to 2023 boats. There's likely going to be another price increase there, depending on what inflation does, how the economy holds up, and all of that. Now, I wanted to check used boat inventory too. So I did a search in my market area, 29707, $10,000 to $75,000 used boats, gas powered. Okay. And there were 1,116 boats for sale. And I kind of did a scroll through to see what kind of prices. What's interesting is those prices are up. You'll see some that are outlandish, like no way you're getting that price. See some that are priced okay. But I sold boats 10 years ago, and there's boats that I was selling used at that time that are virtually the same price as they were 10 years ago. So that's how much pricing has gone up. But again, that's because there's not that many more new boats on the market. When you go back to this chart right here, in 2010 was the slowest time in the last 30 years, right? So under $150,000 new boats sold. So there weren't that many boats that were built in those 2008, 2009, 2010 to 2016 relative to the historical times. So now that there's that demand, they can't build enough new boats to get there. So what happens? Everybody has to push back and buy a little bit older boat, and there weren't as many of those built either because that was right after the 2007, 2008 housing crash, and boom, overbuilding by manufacturers. Prices went down. The manufacturers were giving huge rebates, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 on a $60,000 boat. And that's how they were getting the inventory back and building boats so they could hit their economies of scale. Economy continued to improve. Boat sales numbers went up, but we still were not anywhere near those late 90s, early 2000 numbers of 350,000. We're getting close. But again, this is without personal watercraft. So there's about 70, 80,000 not there. Okay. So let's go back. Why? We know this. I beat this over and over, everyone. Can't find good quality labor that wants to work for the prices they're paying. So what happens? They've got to pay a little bit more. They've got to offer some extra things. Every manufacturer, job fairs, dealers having a hard time finding people. Everybody within the whole economy is having a hard time finding people to do the skilled jobs that they need done. Supply chain issues, shipping container issue, all of that. Prices have gone up. Things aren't getting where they need to be to get built. Motors, especially coming from overseas. Yamaha has been hit. Mercury hasn't had quite the same issue as Yamaha has. Volvo's having some issues. But ultimately, even Mercury, that builds most of their stuff in the U.S., some of their materials, some of their components are coming from overseas, and that's causing issues. Quality control issues. We don't have the same level of supply of components coming in, so the boats aren't streamlined in production where you build the boat, boom, all at once. It's, we can build the boat up to this point, and then we got to wait for this part to come in. And so there's half-built, totally built boats that are waiting on parts. Maybe it's just a rigging piece for the motor. Maybe it's a certain component, a gauge or something, and we can't go any further until that's done. And the labor issue, the newer labor that's out there, all of that's causing some issues. And the dealers are seeing it. The better dealers are taking care of it before you, the customer, take delivery. The dealers that are short-staffed, maybe they just don't have the time. Maybe they missed some things. Boats are getting delivered to customers with some issues. And again, the motor supply. Being at the Charleston Boat Show, talking to dealers, there are and have been a lot of boats sitting completely done except for the motor. We want to put a 250 Yamaha on this. Can't do it. We want to put a 350, a whatever, can't do it. A 90, can't do it because the motor or the rigging is not ready. So all those issues still are out there. And then aluminum. I alluded to this in my last video. And again, one more little wrench to throw in that. Tensions between the U.S. and Russia over Ukraine exacerbating a shakeout in the aluminum sector. Price of aluminum has increased 24% over the past 6 months to more than 3,100 a metric ton. I don't know, but 24% is a pretty significant amount. If the U.S. if Russia invades Ukraine, that's going to make it worse. Russia is one of the largest aluminum producers and traders. If a conflict breaks out there, China has everything else. So China is the major supplier of aluminum. Russia's next, and so if there's an issue there, there's already some tension with China and us. Russia. So prices for pontoons aluminum fishing boats and motors. Mercury Mercruiser, they do a lot of aluminum in their engines and the drives. Everybody does. They've got some sort of a patented alloy. So something to keep in mind. Natural gas prices almost 5 times as high as they were a year ago because of the cold weather. And there's, I guess, a lot of natural gas consumption in the making of aluminum. So something to keep an eye on is, okay, if you're a pontoon shopper, aluminum fishing boat shopper, or engine prices, looking to repower maybe, if this continues, could we see higher prices in that respect as well, in addition to the other increases that we're seeing? If you're in Canada, that luxury tax. Now, the 20% of retail sales price above the threshold of $100,000 for cars, $250,000 for boats, 10% of the retail sales price of luxury car, boat, and aircraft. So the way I'm reading that, this was taken from a Canadian government website, is all boats will have a 10% luxury tax. If you're over $250,000, that goes to 20%. That's how I'm reading it. So Canadians, there was a Canadian dealer that had his comment. Is that going to be an issue? You're automatically a 10 to maybe even a 20% increase. Didn't work out for the U.S. very well when we did that years ago. We'll see what happens up there in Canada. Okay, so Consumer Price Index, the cost of consumer things. This is the inflation indicator. Well, pandemic hit, it dipped down. After that, we've been going up from about 220, let's say 257 or so, up to climbing over 280 at the end of the year. You can see the historic and it's been pretty steady. So we're not seeing, until the pandemic hit, a pretty steady angle, and boom, we've just hit up. What does that mean? Well, here's the projections. They're saying it's expected to top 7% at the end of the year. I think that did. And then they're saying, hey, once all the supply chain issues hit and get worked out, well, we're going to see that inflation go down. The Fed's talking about raising rates. They're saying, hey, we're seeing the inflation. It's more than we're comfortable with. We're probably going to have to take some action here and keep interest rates from being at their historic lows. And we're going to have to make some policy changes. And if that happens, they handle it right and inflation goes down. Okay, then okay. But if inflation continues to go up, does the economy slow? Do prices of boats just get so outrageous? Although there's a ton of money in the marketplace right now. Last time we talked about 3 months ago, we talked about the wealth in the top 50% in the U.S. The top 10%, the top 25% were all going up significantly. This inflation will have an impact. Does it get so far out of hand? I don't know. I'll leave the experts, but this was from Bloomberg. And most of the articles that I read said, hey, we expect it to come down as the supply chain issues get better. Cost of materials go down on from the raw materials. So we'll see. So my predictions. All right. Demand's going to continue through mid-2023. Here's why. Because 2022, it's going to be sold out by May for almost everybody. I was at the boat show in Charleston. I'm going to another show this weekend. They're telling me several of our brands, several of our models are already sold out for the 2022 season. And this is in February. So it's already happening. This prediction means that they're selling boats that won't be built until at least August at the best possible situation, but probably September, October, November, because this is happening before the boat shows. All the boat shows that are happening are going to flood in with new orders. And what I'm hearing from dealers is, we talked to somebody a year ago and said, you better order your boat now because prices are going up and it's going to take 6 months to get it. They come back in 6 months and say, you know what, we're ready to buy now. And they say, well, 8% price increase and it's going to be 6 to 8 months to get it now. And the customer says, holy crap, that wasn't a sales pitch. I'm going to buy. And so now they buy, but they've got to wait till August, September, October to get their boat in some situations. So that means that manufacturers can't start refilling dealer supply if everybody stopped buying boats tomorrow until November, December of 2022. And it's going to take them 8 to 12 months to refill dealer inventory to what I'll call normal levels. Well, that means that, at least through 2023, the manufacturers can just catch up. And that's if nobody else buys a boat. So I anticipate even with inflation, even with gas prices going up, even with the election cycle, that demand's going to continue at a reasonable level. Supply chain issues will continue through early to mid 2023. Again, that's from research that I did from others that are smarter than me in supply chain stuff. So prices continue to increase on new boats through 2024 models. And that's because everything kind of just pushes down. If the demand is sold through September, October, okay, if there's any price increases that are going to need to get pushed out, we may see a price increase in the next 3 or 4 months before the pricing change that usually comes with the year model update in July or August for most manufacturers. That's kind of what I see. Used boat prices, I think they're going to hold at current levels, increasing slightly. The longer the supply chain issues take, the harder it is for manufacturers to put boats on the water, completed boats on the water, the more that's going to inflate the used boat market. Once the manufacturers are able to meet demand, then we're going to see the used boat prices kind of hold. I don't see them going down significantly. Again, go back to that chart of how many boats were built. There just weren't that many boats built. 150,000 boats built in 2010. So there's not like there's a whole bunch of boats that are out there to buy on the used market. And so that's why I see that. Interest rates on boat loans are likely to increase. If the Fed increases the rates, the lenders are going to tighten up maybe a little bit depending on inflation and the economy. But rates, I think, are going to go up. Risk to future demand. Well, gas prices going higher. We've seen them stabilize a little bit in my area for sure. Continued long-term higher inflation. If the experts aren't right that as supply chain issues get better, inflation's going to dip down, the Fed adjustments, they're making their voodoo magic happen. If that doesn't curve the inflation, that could be an issue. Opening of international travel. My daughter is going to Paris with her grandpa for a big trip that was canceled because of COVID. They had the flights booked and everything, canceled because of COVID. Now 2.5 years later, they're back on the books. If more people are comfortable, but vaccine passport, she's got, that's an issue that my wife and I are talking about is, hey, what do we deal with that? But if international travel opens up completely, no vaccine passports, no quarantining, no risk of getting stuck in another country, well, that could touch into the demand on boats. COVID resurgence, overreaction, politics, luxury taxes, regulation, all of those things could have an impact. So the question, should you buy a boat in the next 6 to 12 months? Well, if you like this, hit that like button for sure. Leave a comment if you've got questions or if you've got a story of a price increase, your story of buying a boat, and how any of this relates to you and insights that you can have. Hit that bell if you want to be notified of future videos. So the answer is yes, you should buy a boat if you can afford it with a good cushion. If inflation continues to go up and you buy the boat with no cushion, well, you're asking for problems. Understand you're paying 5, 15% or more than what you would have a year ago. If you're comfortable with that, great, do it. Would you rather spend more money to make your memories today? Now, it sounds like a sales pitch, but the reality is your kids aren't getting younger. You're not getting younger. And you can either do it today and spend an extra 10 grand. It's just money. You can make more. Or you can say, hey, it's 10 grand. That's too much for me to spend. And it doesn't make economic sense. Now, you don't buy a boat for economic reasons. You buy a boat for the memories, for the lifestyle, because you've deserved it. You work hard and you've got that financial success. If it's that, then buy it. It's just, you're going to spend 10 grand on something else anyway. But no, if you're going to be stretched too much, if boating is a financial burden to you, you're just not going to enjoy it. So don't even spend the money. You've got gas, you've got insurance, you've got storage. And if those things are going to put a strain on you financially, there's no way you're going to enjoy it. You're going to have to sell your boat. And it's going to be you're going to say, oh, the best 2 days of a boater's life are the day you buy, the day you sell. Because you made a bad financial decision. So don't do that. Don't buy a boat if that's you. If you're going to regret it in 2 or 3 years when the prices correct themselves, and maybe you take a larger financial hit when you go to sell or trade it in, and it's just going to gnaw at your gut. And you're going to say, hey, no amount of memories made, no amount of experiences are going to feel better than how bad I feel with this financial hit that we took. Maybe boating costs you an extra 20 grand than what it would have in normal times. If you can't take it, then don't buy a boat. Don't buy the boat now. Keep that money in the bank and put it somewhere else, okay? If you feel the U.S. and the world overall is just too volatile right now to make a fun money investment, and there's nobody that has to have a boat, right? If you didn't have a boat, you wouldn't die. You might be a little unhappier if you're me, if you don't have access to boating. But if that's you, then you shouldn't buy a boat now because, yes, I do think used boat prices are going to flatten out. Maybe they even dip down a little bit, and regular depreciation is going to set in. If that bothers you, then don't do it. So if you do buy a boat, though, set a budget and understand your boating budget. In the Boat Buyer Secret Weapon Toolkit, I've got a cost of ownership calculator in there that you can figure everything out. So not just the cost of the boat and the payment, but everything that's involved. I break it down so you can fill it in with your local market prices. Figure out what 80% looks like of your boating lifestyle, and then what's the other 20% look like, and try to find the boats that's going to satisfy the 80% perfectly, and then can do the other 20% hopefully. Okay? Visit marinas, boat ramps, dealers, because likely, even at the boat shows, they're not going to have the model of boat that you're looking for, and you certainly aren't going to have the opportunity to compare this one versus that one versus that one versus that one, because several of those aren't going to be in there, and that's at the boat show environment. In the dealer environment, you're going to be hard-pressed, I think, this season to find boats to look at unless your timing is just right. Know exactly what you want. Have your finances ready. If you're financing, be pre-approved. Have your cash where you need it to be if you're going to be moving some cash around, so that when the right boat comes up, you know it's the right boat. You act quickly to lock it in, but then, especially if it's used, even if it's new, inspect it slowly and completely. I had a guy reach out to me. Matter of fact, I just got his voicemail right before I recorded this. He's buying a 320 Boston Whaler. I don't remember what it was, but a 320 Boston Whaler. He said, hey, can you come inspect it with me and spend some time on it with me, because I want to make sure that the boat's as it should be. So you've got to inspect slowly and completely. The boat's not yours until you put up real money. So if you say, hey, I'll buy the boat, but you haven't given real money, expect that boat to be gone, no matter what verbal commitments you think were there, until there's money put on the table and processed, credit card number ran, check cashed, the boat's not yours. Sea trial demo. I know it's still February, ice out, and some of you northern people aren't for another couple of months still, and I get emails all the time. I'm looking at this boat. It looks great. It's a great price, but I can't get it on the water to run it. Should I buy it? No. Probably not. If it's a very, very reputable dealer that's been around, has a great reputation, and they're saying, and they'll put it in writing, hey, we'll take this boat out on the water when ice out, and we will fix anything if there's issues. But you have to buy it today. We got to get your 50 grand today, but we'll put that in writing. Then, okay, but there's still a risk there. From a private individual, me, absolutely not. Wouldn't do it. I would rather miss out on a boat than buy a boat that could easily have major issues with the engine or the drive because I can't run it in the winter. Just because you're so excited and you're like, man, we've been looking for boats for a year and we finally found the right one. It's a great price. Well, there's a risk there, and I don't want you to be regretting it, okay? If you order a boat, hey, maybe use Boat Setter or Get My Boat, or ask the dealer if they have a client that you can inspect that boat and run it to make sure it's exactly what you want before you order the boat, okay? And inspect completely before taking delivery and writing the check. If you order a boat or you get a new boat in, QC issues, the dealers are saying this about the manufacturers, the boats are showing up with issues. So as a consumer, if I'm writing a check for 10 grand, 100 grand, 300 grand, $1 million, I'm going to make sure that boat is in good condition before I take it, knowing that, hey, there's going to be some shakedown things. There's going to be some little things, some seat that needs to be tightened, a bolt that needs to be adjusted, a hatch that needs to be adjusted. That's okay. But what I don't want is a major component missing, wiring missing, wiring done improperly, plumbing for your pumps and your live wells and your bait wells and your sinks, plumbing done improperly. All of those things can happen, and I'm going to inspect completely. So you're likely going to have to inspect something similar. Even if it's older, expect long and uncertain delivery times. They're getting better, but the uncertainty in the communication from the deal or manufacturer to the dealer to the customer, they're not locked in stone. Get creative with your demo. If you travel to find a boat and you're buying new, figure out the warranty situation. Make sure you talk to the local dealer that's going to handle your warranty claims and work it out with them. They understand the situation. They may or may not be agreeable, but at least try, okay? Go in with hey, here's the situation. I would love to buy from you all. You don't have the boat. You don't have any production spots left. So I found the boat over there. I know this is out of your territory. Traditionally, you wouldn't take care of them, but what can we work out? Not a ton of discounts, but negotiate anyway. I had a customer that got the First-Time Boat Buyer Academy, used the magic money saving method. Just 2 days ago, sent me an email saying, I showed it on the live from last Sunday, saved $2,500 because of your methods. Everybody's saying prices are high. You can't negotiate. Yeah, you can. You can always negotiate. There might be some savings there, and for him, it was $2,500, significant enough to invest the $100 it costs for the First-Time Boat Buyer Academy and know how to do it that in a way that works in today's environment. If you're buying used, there's still some turds on the market. There's always another boat. Be aware. Inspect properly. Hey, there's some see what I can get prices out there, so watch out. Just because the price is listed doesn't mean that's the price you have to pay. Doesn't mean they're even really serious about selling their boat. So I encourage you to kind of pay attention to what prices are for the type of boats you're looking at, and be aware that they're some way too high. You may need to travel. Figure your transportation costs into the price. So, $2 a loaded mile, $3 a loaded mile, which is a one-way trip for most boats under, let's say, 26, 28 feet. When you start getting bigger, then they're going to go up from there. Be patient, be ready, and be willing to act quickly if the boat's right, but slow down at the inspection time, okay? And then negotiate, especially on used boats, especially when buying them from private sellers, hey, I don't care what the environment is, supply and demand wise, everybody is going to set their price higher than the price they would ultimately accept when they're selling a larger ticket item. Hell, I just did it on a couch we're selling. We just got a new couch in that took us almost a year to get. We got it in, so we're selling our old couch. What did I do? I put it at a higher price, knowing that I would probably take less, but if I can sell it for that price, why the heck not? That's what most people do. So negotiate. First-Time Boat Buyer Academy, I show you how to negotiate. I show you how to inspect. I show you how to go through the process to make sure you buy the right boat. You can go firsttimeboatbuyer.com and check all of that out. Thank you for watching the video. Subscribe. Some other videos that are recommended. And if you haven't, grab that toolkit, Boat Buyer Secret Weapon Toolkit. It's totally free, and it is going to help you. It's 25 pages long, and there's all sorts of checklists and things in there that are going to be valuable. Thank you. Remember, life truly is better on a boat.